If you had to live the same life that you lived these past 2 weeks for the rest of your life, would you be satisfied? Would you be glad? Would you be happy to know that this is what you were going to do within your work, within your livelihood, within your friends, within your activities, with where you live? If it was all the same from the past 2 weeks of how you live, the next 10, 15, 20 years, if that sounds unfathomable and unthinkable, and that's not where you want to be, I need you to actually sit down and watch this in full. Because when it comes to your consistency, your discipline, to your lust, it's not just gonna happen to change just because you decided to pray and fast. Because that's the one part of your life that has been keeping you in a chokehold until you finally decide that you're gonna add some structure and a rhythm of life to it. And so, you can't sit down and actually watch a video. Your dopamine is shot, your brain needs a reset, and it's never gonna change if you continue to do the same thing. What do you call a person who does the same thing and expects different results? If you haven't heard that one, the answer is a fool. And if you're really in your Bible, then you understand that it's not really an endearing term. If anything, it's a little bit of an insult, or a lot of it. Now, one of the main reasons why you want to be all up in your word, but this is the one area, you see that? You see the weights, you see the barbells, you see all these things. This is pain. This is what all this signifies. None of this feels good, especially the more that you put on. The more weight that you put on to a bar, to a dumbbell, the more it's going to hurt. But this is the same pain that's going to give you muscles. The same pain that can make you cry, squirm, injure, hurt you, demolish your entire confidence and embarrass yourself is the same thing that will get you to a place to be able to take off your shirt and feel confident, to be able to go on a poolside and wear a bikini. All those same things that can hurt can be the same thing to save you. And the principle of this is called a tool. You see these tools? Understand that it can help or harm you. Where am I going with this? I need to actually focus. You blame your phone for leading you into temptation. You lock it away, you eliminate the apps, you blame Instagram to being the source of your temptations. It's not Instagram, it's not your phone, it's you. It's how you see tools. A hammer can kill someone, or it can build a house. Weights can literally harm someone, make them hurt, or it can make them grow. The reason why I'm using weights is because there is a love-hate relationship with this place called the gym. And most of you go to a spiritual gym called church, right? And so you go to church, you hear a sermon, you go weekly, you commune, you make community, you make it your home and place where you know that you're going to be investing into yourself, better your relationship with God through other people. But for some reason, while you have that structure in place and make sure that you're being challenged, that you're keeping in check, that you're in some type of formal space where you know that your spirit will be fed, you don't think of yourself in the same way, but you expect different results. What do we call that? To do the same thing and expect different results is a fool. You have been a fool to think that you could possibly escape the pain and sacrifice of your comfort and anything else would change. And so, when we talk about actually becoming consistent, actually becoming disciplined, the only way that's gonna happen is through sacrifice. And not the band-aid sacrifices of just deleting apps, moving your phone. It's gonna come through actual identity, who you are. Do you know how many times I had to question myself of, am I really the man that I think that God is creating me to be? Am I actually going down the right path? I had to second guess myself. One of the biggest decisions I ever had to make was coming out of high school. I had a decision to go play football. I had a D2 interest, I had a D1 AA interest, and they wanted me to come on and walk on. I had a prep school that offered me a scholarship, and they were like the top prep schools that I could go to, and then I could go possibly D1, all these possibilities. Then I also had a business scholarship from Mercy College in Westchester, and it came to this fork in the road where I didn't know what the next step of my life was gonna be. And it's so easy for me to realize that, man, if I make a wrong choice here, I can go down a completely different path. And so I had to actually know what my purpose and calling was. I loved football. It was my first love. It was the first thing that I felt like I could really work hard at, excel, watch film, actually understand and dissect plays, and while being undersized, perform really well. And it didn't always have to be as physical what it looks like. I can actually excel because I was smart enough to apply myself to the game. And so with that being true, I also knew that real life was gonna hit. What are my chances of making it to the NFL? And so I started forming my identity super early on, understanding what is the ways that I want to walk in. Do I want to be a trying athlete and taking the risk and chance of something that will result in a zero payout? Big risk, big reward, but how big is the risk compared to the reward I could get? And so I opted into going to business school. And all of that started the journey of understanding that I was purpose for business. My journey through corporate America, getting my dream job at 19 years old, doing digital marketing in the financial services industry in Wall Street at 19 years old, making 65 upwards of 70K at 19 out of college. That's only God's grace alone. But understand, I knew it was my identity and what I could be able to accomplish. And some of you do not know what your identity is. So no wonder you can always compromise on what you actually need to get done. If you don't know who you are, your being, how can you do anything different? You get stuck in this trap of if based off what you do is what you're gonna have. And that is a backwards way of thinking because you do it doesn't mean you're gonna have the results as you expect. Because you do it doesn't make you a different person. Who you're being as a human being comes down to your beliefs, your deeply rooted beliefs of who you are and how you understand God. And if that is out of context, if that is misaligned, that can completely change the type of results that you see because it'll make it only tougher for what you do. Follow me here. Be, do, have. If you're not being the right person, that is gonna make it super hard for you to do the things aligned to who you want to be. Example, how can I be a good husband unless I truly believe it deep down in my heart that I love my wife? And so if I'm gonna just do things to look like a good husband, but I truly am a selfish husband, that's the whole thing with me, a good guy. I used to be that as well. Oh, I'm such a good guy, I'm such a catch. I used to be wondering when I was dating, why can't I just find someone for me? I'm just such a good guy. I have a good job, I go to church, I'm just good. But to be honest, it's because it was based off my actions. And really, I read this book, All Good Guys. It's not finished last, but I'll put it up here. Good guys are inherently selfish because they just want to be looked at and seen and recognized as good. But meanwhile, they have deeper alternative selfish motives. And so at the root of it, it goes back to a selfish, prideful reason. Once I broke down that I'm actually not a good guy, I'm broken, inherently sinful, and I accepted that part of myself, that's when I saw true change. And what I did, I could act out of a place of humility, authenticity, and it only made me a better man. And now I can only be a good husband because I know that I'm what I am incomplete. And so if you can't own up to who you are completely and see the good and bad and make a decision from there who you're going to become and who has God called you to be, doing it will only make it harder because that's the false pretense that you're wearing. And so to be is to do. You can only do what you be. I'll explain this one last way. An apple tree will never produce oranges. It sounds like a dove, but understand that if it's an apple tree, no matter how many oranges that you put on the tree, it will never produce apples because at its roots, the seed that was planted was for apples. At your roots, whatever you were meant to produce is what you will produce. And right now, you're misaligned in what root that you have. And the only way to change that isn't to change the apples, take the apples off and put oranges on. It's to change your core beliefs at the root so that you can produce new fruit and you can have different results. And this is why it's a game changer. Because if you are so lost as to what real change looks like, it's because you've always missed the point. And I've been exactly there, thinking that if I did things differently, I would have different results when the whole time it was always about your heart. It was always about what you believe, what you actually thought of yourself, what you thought of God, and what could be different. That's what beliefs are. What should be, that's a little bit of guilt and doubt and shame. But what would be is for the past, what should be is comparison, but what could happen. And this is the different type of mentality that can make drastic different results. This is how my client Jory lost over 20 pounds in 12 weeks. This is how he also ended up proposing to his girlfriend. This is the real life transformative power of the daily deposit system. Not just a band-aid, just trying to cure for symptoms on the surface, but really changing things at the root. And you already know, I can invite you to join it. You can find more information, whatever you want. But at the end of the day, it is your decision. No one else can make the decision for you. Change is in your hands. And if you say that is something that you want, you cannot delay. You have to make decisions. And each decision you make will be a part of your story. And as long as you understand the consequences of your delay, you won't make a change. I'll say it again. And unless you understand the consequences of your delay, you will not make a decision. Delay is comfort. Decision is discomfort. You can't have the two in the same room. You can't wait. You can't say tomorrow unless you're comfortable with living with the same consequences and reality that you are today. And so, just like Jory, or just like you can say my client Jay, who lost 28 pounds in 30 days, change is at hand. And if that's what you want, then it's available.